Hello, welcome to my Forex forecast 2024. I hope everybody had a fantastic Christmas season, a wonderful new year. Can you believe it's 2024? The years seem to go quicker and quicker. The older I get, the years just fly by. If you're not yet a profitable trader, make 2024 that year. Set goals. Create a detailed plan on how you are going to become a Forex trader. Do it. Make this year the year. 2023 was a fantastic year for me. It was actually the most profitable year I've had for a while, and it ended on a real high in a trading sense. Really happy with my performance in 2023. As most of you know, I was off in December. I have the whole month of December off every year. I also have the whole month of August off. In December, I went to Disneyland Paris. I spent a lot of time with my children, with my wife. We ate out a lot, went to lots of restaurants, had lots of nice food at home. My wife did the Christmas dinner this year. It's usually myself that does that, but she did it this year. It was really good. She did a great job. Playing games with the kids, resting, relaxing. The older I get, the more simple I want life to be. Going away for a week or two and then spending the rest of the time at home plodding around, doing a bit of DIY, reading. I like it really simple. Very restful. It's now back to trading though. I've been back for a couple of days. To understand what's going to happen or possibly happen in 2024 with regard to the currency markets, you really need to understand what happened in 2022 and 2023, possibly 2021 as well. To understand what the driving force is going to be behind the markets in 2024 this year, you need to understand what drove price the last couple of years. And what did drive price? What was the driving force for price the last couple of years? It was high inflation, and then interest rates rising to combat that inflation. That is now over. That inflation trade is over, and it was very lucrative. It was very profitable if you knew how to trade that, and I'm really happy with my performance in 2023. We now have the downside of that. Doesn't mean it's going to be less profitable, but we now have inflation that's more or less under control in most global economies, and we have interest rates that will possibly start coming down, and that's going to be the main driving force in 2024 unless something really unexpected happens, such as huge war or huge natural disasters or a pandemic or a very unexpected major global recession. These things can happen, and then the whole interest rate cuts and the post high inflation driving force kind of takes a back seat. Okay, let's have a look at inflation, interest rates. We'll have a look at those things first, the fundamental side of things. We'll create some notes, and then we'll look at some charts, and we'll look at the technical analysis. Any questions you have, use the comment section below. I love comments, even if it's just to give me a thumbs up or to give your own analysis, even if it contradicts my analysis, that's fine. Use the comment section below, interact with the video. I would appreciate it. Okay, let's bring up this chart here. Now, as mentioned, 2023 was all about high inflation, that inflation starting to come down, and central banks increasing rates to bring that inflation down. What's going to be the main driving force in 2024? So let's make some notes here. So 2024, what is going to be the main driving force? Well, it's economies that are cutting rates will weaken their country's currency. Okay, so when rates go up, that currency generally appreciates, it strengthens. When rates come down, that currency weakens. So the idea for 2024 is really to identify which countries are likely to cut rates first or cut rates the most deeply, because they're going to be the weaker currencies. Whereas those countries, those economies are likely to keep high rates for longer, or maybe not cut so much, or maybe not even cut this year, such as Japan that might increase rates, they're going to be stronger currencies. That's the basis of the fundamental analysis in 2024. Obviously, other things can happen. Unexpected recessions, pandemics. I've mentioned these things already. Something could happen. War in Ukraine could explode into something much more drastic. Unlikely, and fingers crossed, no one wants that. Same as in the Middle East and Israel. These things could throw a big spanner into this fundamental base. You have to be aware of these things, because they could happen. Okay, so 2024. So if I bring up my wonderful spreadsheet here, so it has countries down the left here with the interest rate month by month and the inflation rate. Now, a lot of countries or economic areas want 2% inflation. Okay, so going back to my notes here. So weak currencies in 2024 are going to be those that cut rates first and or cut the deepest. Okay, so a country that's going to cut rates, a central bank that's going to cut rates by 0.25% this year, even if it cuts first, won't necessarily weaken that much when compared to a central bank that cuts 5 times, and each time they cut 0.25%. So it's all about when they cut and how deep that cut is. You know, the stronger currencies, so the currencies that are going to see some strength, are going to be those that don't cut, that actually increase rates. That's not off the table. We could see further rate increases, and those that don't cut as much, or don't cut first, cut much later in the year. And if we have a central bank that's cutting, say, end of 2024, compared to a central bank that's cutting in a few months' time, one's going to be much stronger than the other. In theory. This is how it works in theory. Okay, just some notes there. As I mentioned already, any questions about this, leave your questions in the comments section below. So what we're going to do is we're going to identify those countries that are likely to start cutting first, or start cutting soon. Be the first central banks to start cutting, because they're likely to be the weaker the weaker currencies in 2024. So looking at inflation rates here and interest rates, I'm not going to take the time in going through all this with you. Let's just highlight those currencies that are likely to see weakness in 2024. The first here is the euro. Okay, so the euro area inflation is pretty much at 2%. Rates have been on hold since September 2023. The next step for the ECB, the European Central Bank, the central bank for the euro area, for the EU, is to start cutting rates. Now, I'm not suggesting that's going to happen in February or March. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it is going to happen unless inflation starts creeping up again. This is something unexpected you need to be aware of. This forecast, this analysis is all based on today's figures. This is why fundamental analysis needs to be done over and over again, once a month, review everything, just like you would do with your technical analysis. You know, you update levels, you relook at the charts. Same with fundamental analysis. At the moment, the euro is looking like it's going to depreciate. It's going to be weak in 2024. Let's create some more space here. Let's go over here. Okay. The reason for that is you have inflation already around 2%. The ECB have met the inflation target. They're not raising rates anymore. They've actually held rates the last 4 or 5 months. And then another reason why is Europe is looking like it's going to hit recession. And what does recession mean? It means rate cuts to try and stimulate the economy, to start making things move again. So, for me, the euro is definitely a currency we want to be selling, or I want to be selling in 2024. Another is the Canadian dollar. We're not quite at 2%, we're nearing 2%. Actually, the last couple of months, inflation stayed at 3.10%. Once again, rates have stayed the same, this time since July of last year. We're pretty much there at 2%, got a little way to go. We might see a final rate hike by the Bank of Canada. Could happen. After that, though, prepare for rate cuts from Canada. Once again, the Canadian economy is not looking good. Recession is coming. Unemployment is really climbing. And if I look at another tab here, I didn't want to go into all these tabs, but if we look at unemployment here in Canada, we've gone from 1% back in 2022, climbed to over 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, nearing 6% unemployment in Canada. It's not looking good, and there are other economic indicators that we can look at. But recession's likely coming. What does that mean? Rate cuts. Okay, so the weaker currencies at the moment for 2024 are the euro and the Canadian dollar. How about strong currencies? Okay, so which central banks aren't likely to cut in 2024? Or which are likely to cut late 2024? Well, the first is Japan. Okay, now Japan's a bit of a different story. I don't want to go into Japan and the central bank there, but basically they have had negative rates for a very long time. 2024 is likely the year they're going to come out of negative rates. You can see, beginning of my spreadsheet, May 2022, still negative interest rates. It's likely to change in 2024. No guarantees, but it's likely to change. They're likely to put rates up in 2024. That means a stronger yen. So you have the euro with lower interest rates, possibly, likely. Canada, the Canadian dollar, that's going to be impacted by lower interest rates, cutting interest rates. You have the Bank of Japan that's likely to increase rates and also move from negative rates to perhaps a 0 rate or a slightly positive rate, 0.1% maybe, something like that. Buy the yen. Sell the euro, sell the Canadian dollar. We also have the US dollar. Now, the US dollar, once again, I'm not quite at 3.1%. There could be an unexpected rate hike, a final one, to bring that inflation down to 2%. Rates are then likely to stay the same for a very long time. I don't think the US are going to cut interest rates anytime soon. The reason being, their economy is doing very well. Generally, you cut rates to prevent recession, to get an economy out of recession. The US is not near recession, and I don't think it will be for a while. Obviously, and I've said this lots of times now, things can change very quickly, but at the moment, there is no reason why the US is going to hit recession anytime soon. So rates are likely to stay high for longer. Okay, so the US dollar is definitely a currency we want to buy. Buy the US dollar. Sell the Canadian dollar, sell the euro, buy the yen. let's have a look at another strong currency, and that is the Australian dollar. Now, their inflation comes out every quarter, so we haven't got the latest figures here. It all depends on the next inflation figure. But if this inflation figure is near 2%, let's say 3% or lower, this is definitely going to be a buy. Once again, we don't have recession coming in Australia. I think the rates are likely to stay higher for longer. So this is going to be a buy. Now, which major currencies are we missing? We're missing the Swiss franc and we're missing the pound. The pound's an interesting one. So we have inflation that is near 4%. Inflation's still very high here in the UK. Rates have not increased since August or July, August last year. I don't think the Bank of England will cut rates for a long time. I think bringing this inflation down to 2% or around 2% is still the priority. That could change if the UK hits a major recession, which I don't think it's going to. Not as much as Europe or the EU. I think we could even see a final rate hike by the Bank of England. I think the pound, I predict the pound is actually going to perform quite well in 2024. Not as well as perhaps these other currencies. So perhaps we can make something here. Let's do question mark GBP. And we'll put the Swiss franc in there too. Now, the Swiss franc is a really fascinating currency because the Swiss National Bank like to interfere, or intervene is the right word, but interfere is the word I will use, in the FX markets, and they like to manipulate price and make the Swiss franc as strong as possible. But if we look at Switzerland and we look at their inflation rate, it's at 1.4%. The economy is not doing that great. It's doing better than the rest of Europe and other parts of the world. I think there could be an interest rate cut by the Swiss National Bank sometime very soon. We're below 2% inflation there. I think it could actually happen first. I think the Swiss National Bank may be one of the first central banks, Western central banks, to cut rates. Now, the reason why I haven't put it down as a weak currency is what I've mentioned, the intervention by the Swiss National Bank in strengthening their currency, but it's also a safe haven. And we have everything erupting in Israel. Ukrainian war with Russia is still going on, or Russia with Ukraine. That could strengthen the Swiss franc, but this gives like a double strength to the yen because that's also a safe haven. That's down as a strong. So I'm unsure about these two. I would say, rolling the dice, the pound is going to be stronger in 2024. The Swiss franc is going to be weaker. I'm not as convinced about these two currencies as those I've listed in weak and strong. Now, what do we do from here? What's the forecast from here? Well, we simply just compare the weak currencies. We want to be selling the weak ones and buying the strong ones. So things like Canadian dollar yen. Let's look at the Canadian dollar first. So like Canadian dollar yen, we want to be selling, which is selling the Canadian dollar, buying the yen. And then our longs, we want to be buying the US dollar and selling the yen. Australian dollar, Canadian dollar. We want to be buying the Australian dollar and selling the yen. So buying Australian dollar, Canadian dollar. We'll have a look at the euro here. So EURJPY. We want to be selling the euro, buying the yen, going short euro Japanese yen. And euro US dollar is another one. And so is euro Australian dollar. Euro pound. Okay, we want to be going short euro pound. And euro pound, shorting euro pound is actually one of my star charts for 2024. I've actually already purchased some put options based on euro pound being lower, but we'll come to that in a moment when we start going through technical analysis. It's euro pound. Euro Swiss franc, I don't really know. I'm more convinced about euro pound coming down than euro Swiss franc. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Swiss franc yen. Let's put that down here. So Swiss franc JPY. I reckon the yen's going to strengthen over the Swiss franc. They're both safe havens, which kind of, in a sense, nullifies that safe haven status. Not really, but it does to a degree. If the Swiss National Bank is cutting rates or cuts rates, and the Bank of Japan increases rates, hikes rates, it's a no-brainer trade in my mind. So Swiss franc, Japanese yen. I think I'm missing one. Am I missing one? Swiss franc. 1, 2, 3. Oh, pound Canadian dollar. I also had that down as a long. Pound Canadian dollar. So buying the pound against the Canadian dollar. Once again, we might see strength with the pound against the weaker Canadian dollar. So we have a list here of let's see if we can move this across like this. Okay, so we have a nice list here of currency pairs for your watch list, a watch list for 2024 to short these pairs or to look for shorting opportunities on these pairs and to go long these pairs. So let's have a look at the charts. Let's start with Canadian dollar, Japanese yen, and we'll come back to New Zealand dollar, US dollar, and this watch list in a moment. So Canadian dollar, yen. Okay, let's have a look at the weekly time frame here. So I have this down as a short. Things are clearly uptrending though on the weekly, but I think this trend is coming to an end. And there are some technical signals that confirm this. Number one, and let's see if I can bring up some arrows. Number one is, look at the swing high here compared to the most recent swing high. Not much difference, is there? I think upside momentum starting to weaken, and we can actually draw a clear resistance that joins these swing highs together, which would suggest double top, or I think more likely horizontal channel. Now this is a weekly time frame. Here to here is a year, so don't expect price to be all the way down here by the end of 2024. Look for selling opportunities. We also have this divergence, so this RSI divergence, once again a signal that Canadian dollar yen could come down. I'm looking to sell Canadian dollar yen to get into a short position. Beware of support around the moving averages of this trend support area, but ultimately if price reaches this support down here by the end of 2024, I'll be very happy. So wait and see what happens here. Now it could be that we see a fake out. It could be that price breaks above this resistance with this fake breakout and then a move down. It could also be we get a head and shoulder pattern here. Okay, this resistance is not going to hold as gospel. We don't know what's going to happen yet, but definitely look to short Canadian dollar yen. The swap rate is horrible buying the yen because of its negative interest rate compared to the higher rates of Canada, the US, Europe, the UK. So holding a long-term short probably isn't best. I would be looking for shorter term opportunities. On the daily here, there's lots of levels. We also have the moving averages here. This could provide resistance and we could see price come off. You have a look, decide what you're going to do, but my forecast is price is going to come down. Swiss franc yen, let's have a look at that while we're here. Once again, this is the weekly. We're nearing the top of like this bullish channel resistance area. Once again, very clear uptrend. We don't have this resistance building like we do on Canadian dollar yen. We do have the divergence here though. I think this thing's going to come down, but it could climb a lot higher before it does come down. But looking to sell around this bullish channel resistance area is definitely going to be a trade I'm looking to take. If price does start coming down, looking for breaks of support here on the daily, or a retest of a support term resistance, something like that is what I would recommend. Let's stick with the yen. Let's go to Euro yen. Clear bullish channel here on the weekly. Once again, nice clear uptrend. There's not even any divergence here. Things from a technical perspective look very strong. But I do think this trend is coming to an end, because I do think the ECB are going to start cutting interest rates. I do think the Bank of Japan will hike rates at some point in 2024. I think this thing will come down. I would not recommend, and I can't give any advice, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not licensed to give you advice. I recommend for myself, what's my own recommendation, for my own trading, I'm not going to be buying Euro yen. I'm going to be looking to sell Euro yen. Is that all the yen pairs? Let's go back to New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Let's have a look. Canadian dollar yen, Swiss franc yen, Euro yen. Okay. Let's stick with shorting opportunities. Let's do Euro Australian dollar, Euro US dollar, and Euro pound. Let's start with Euro pound, because this is the one I'm most excited about. It won't necessarily be the most profitable. But I'm so excited because we might actually see a break of this weekly range support. This pair has been ranging since 2016, late 2016. A long time. Near the beginning of my trading career, which was, 2012, roundabout, so not quite. Prices in this range, as mentioned already, I'm already short in anticipation for price to reach this range support area and perhaps even break it. There are lower highs coming down like this, signaling that upside momentum is weakening. Potentially, if you don't mind a bit of choppiness, there is a head and shoulder pattern here. I don't know how that looks on the monthly. Can't really see it. But we have these lower highs coming in, which means, a diagonal resistance area, a descending triangle pattern. That would suggest that price is going to break lower. This is a choppy pair. There is a lot going on. I'm already short, and I do expect this to be lower in 2024 than it is, or than it was at the start of the year. So price has already come down about 100 pips or so since the start of the year. We'll wait and see what happens here. Once again, if you're looking to go short, look for breaks of support or retests of support as resistance. This is one. I'm sure we can mark many more. If price does start climbing before it starts coming down, there is lots of horizontal levels. Because price action has been so choppy, there's lots of areas where you could potentially sell or look for selling opportunities. There is a positive swap rate holding a short on euro pound if you have a decent broker, so that's incentive to hold the position longer term. And that swap rate should increase if the ECB do start cutting rates before the Bank of England, because the difference between those interest rates is going to be bigger. Euro Australian dollar, not so keen on this one, but I am looking for selling opportunities. There's no real direction on the weekly, but on the daily here, this is attractive, and that is this lower high here. Potentially the start of a downtrend on the daily time frame, which was a break of this trend support too. Nice clear trend support, in 2023. That's broken. Once again, there's lots of support and resistance that we could draw that could provide trading opportunities, like here, around here, and there's many more too. I don't want to go into real detailed analysis of entry points. 2024 is a long period of time. This price action is going to change. I'm just trying to throw some ideas out to you. So that is that. Euro US dollar. I feel very similar about Euro US dollar as I do Euro Australian dollar. We're looking like things are a bit choppy, indecisive here on the weekly. There is this major trend line here on the monthly. If that's tested, prices could come off that. So I'm looking for selling opportunities. Once again, on the daily, keep an eye on things on the daily. Break of support breaking, becoming resistance, textbook sort of stuff. Okay, New Zealand dollar, US dollar, where are we? Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, US dollar, Canadian dollar, pound, Canadian dollar. Australian dollar, Canadian dollar. Prices in this range. On the monthly, we have this consolidation that's been going on since early 2000s. Horizontal channel here. I would not be surprised if we reach this range resistance, horizontal channel resistance area at some point in 2024, if not late 2024. If this inflation figure, though, is not great for Australia, then that analysis may change. But at the moment, I'm expecting this to move higher. Here we go. Some sort of retrace down to a fib level and a moving average might be good. Once again, there's lots of horizontal levels, but expect to move up throughout 2024 to that range resistance area. Pound Canadian dollar. I really want to go long this pair. I wanted to go long pound Canadian dollar and short euro pound. The short euro pound I'm in with my put options. Also have a CFD trade open too. This one I'm not. I'm not long pound Canadian dollar because it just looks so messy. Even here on the weekly, since really the end of 2016, price has just been all over the place, up and down. Same thing on the daily. Look for buying opportunities. Apply the same principle, textbook sort of break of resistance, buy at support, or other opportunities. We could see a trend support perhaps form off these lows. There's also horizontal zones and areas that you could use. US dollar Canadian dollar is another exciting one. Looking to buy US dollar Canadian dollar. Price is in this range, weekly range, coming off the range support. This is another one, in fact, that I wanted to go long on. And if prices come down again, if we get like a move back down to this range support, I'll be tempted to buy some call options, US dollar Canadian dollar, because I think this thing's going to move higher. Price will test. I'm convicted. I have conviction that it will test this area unless things change, which they can do with fundamentals. At the moment, though, I think this pair is going to be higher. We're going to see a stronger US dollar and a weaker Canadian dollar. Price is going to move up, possibly even break this range resistance and climb higher. That doesn't mean to say this support is going to hold. It could be in the short term, things move down and then move up. And in the short term, anything can happen. The directions that I'm expecting for these pairs in the short term may move in the opposite direction. I'm thinking about 2024 as a whole, as the weeks and months go on. that is my analysis for 2024. I'm really interested to know what you think, what your fundamental analysis is, if any, what your technical analysis is, if any. Let's hope, though, that we all have a profitable year in 2024. And as mentioned at the beginning of this forecast, the beginning of this video, if you're not yet a profitable trader, then make this year the year that it happens. Set the goals, make the plans, and let's make 2024 a great year for all of us. If you have found this forecast useful, and if you like my analysis, if you head over to my website, which is actualforextrading.com, go to the blog, so more, go to blog here. I have my forecast, the fundamental analysis and the technical analysis on the blog here, both for free. You can just click on them and get a bit more detail to what I've been through in these videos. If you want to make this year the year that you become a profitable trader, do my 6 steps. It's all for free. There's no registration whatsoever. Click on free stuff. I have my 6 steps here that will teach you the basics of Forex, teach you the basics of technical analysis, including price action, Japanese candlestick, support and resistance. It will get you set up with a broker for free. You don't even have to use the broker that I recommend. It will just take you through how to use MetaTrader, things like that. You can learn the basics of fundamental analysis, Forex tutorials teaching all sorts of things, risk management, trading psychology, and then my blog. Work through those 6 steps. There's nothing for you to lose. You don't have to sign up. There's no cost at all. Thank you, and I'll speak to you in another video.